So if you haven't heard, Sacha Baron Cohen's released a new film. It's called Grimsby. The thing is, Grimsby is a town. I live in that town. A little bit of background about the actual town of Grimsby. It is a small fishing town on the east coast of England, and it imports and exports 60% of the nation's fish. That's pretty amazing. That's like over half. The town as a whole doesn't have the best media representation, because we've had programmes like Skint and films like Grimsby being made about the town, about a small percentage of the residents and the stereotypes of the town. You really don't get a sense for the actual town, you get the media's perception of it, which is kind of poverty porn. Now you're thinking, oh, because it's your hometown, you hate the film, or you hate Sacha Baron Cohen. Sacha Baron Cohen as a comedic actor and as a comedian has a right to kind of play off these stereotypes. He did it with Borat, he did it with Bruno, he did it with The Dictator. You know, he sent Borat to America, he also sent Bruno to America, and he sent The Dictator to America. The thing that infuriates me the most about this film isn't the, you know, Sacha Baron Cohen or it's about my hometown. It's about the council. They said flat out no to Sacha Baron Cohen filming here because it would cast the town in a poor light. Even though I would have loved to have seen how they actually make a like Hollywood film. And I know a few actors that would have loved to have been in it. I know a lot of people also who would have enjoyed a job. The local businesses would have gotten a boost, and it would have just been a really good boost to the local economy, but because, you know, it would portray the town in a negative light or something, they didn't let him film here. Rather than saying flat out no, they could have kind of coaxed him into maybe doing it in more upbeat areas rather than say the most rundown areas. Maybe had a more creative control over it than they would have had if it was filmed in Essex, which it was. Now you may be saying, oh Sam, there's a kid in there from Grimsby, you know, you can't be that angry. Now in the film there is one child actor who is from Grimsby. That annoyed me as well, because they used him as a sort of selling point around here. He had a spread on the local paper just like, look at him, he's not actually in the film. Having one person from Grimsby in there is like having one black person in a film about slavery. He was the only one that could get the bloody accent right though, so swings and roundabouts. Like with any Sacha Baron Cohen film, he likes to stir up a bit of media storm, and this one was no exception because Good Morning Britain, and they came to Grimsby and they did a section on Grimsby. They interviewed the child actor from Grimsby and a couple of other people about fish, because that's all our town is apparently. He said to an extent, the film isn't about Grimsby, it's just set in Grimsby. This annoyed me, because if you brand something as one thing and then try to sell it as another, it's just not going to work because you're branding it as Grimsby. So people are going to think it's about the town. Fun fact, he can't actually see that film in cinemas because he's not 15 yet. On this segment, Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid interviewed this council person who I've forgotten the name of and I should have researched, but they interviewed him, and Piers Morgan started with,
we're joined now by Grimsby Council leader Ray Oxby, live from Lincolnshire town. Ray, look, I've been to Grimsby. It was, unfortunately for you, it was a very dark, dank, cold day. I did like the fish and chips, but the rest of it did seem a bit grim.
It's just a stupid argument, that. I mean, I've been to London and it was raining, and I don't think London's a shithole, but now Piers Morgan's come here once, and he thinks it's a shithole now, so, you know. To be honest, he can think it's a shithole, we don't want him back. The main problem I have with this is the fact that the film is not funny. It had a good message that they were trying to portray of, you're never alone in Grimsby, but the message was lost in the disgusting humour that was in it. It got to the 2-minute mark and I decided I'm gonna have to make a list. So here are the good points. They had a very good use of the storytelling technique of therefore and but. If you don't know what that is, there'll be an annotation somewhere. Good point number 2, some of the dialogue was quite good and some of it did make me laugh. Not a lot, it was more of a chuckle, but it did make me laugh. Okay, now on to the bad points. The cinematography was very poor. It looked like they gave a GoPro to someone with Parkinson's. My brain could not register what was happening on the screen because it was that shaky. It genuinely made me feel sick, and it didn't help the story at all because you couldn't tell what was going on at all, and it just, no. Also, the editing for the spy scenes was really poor. You see, it looked like someone had gone and seen Kingsman, the church scene, and gone, I can make something like that, and tried and failed. Because in Kingsman what they do is when they did a cut in post, they zoom in on the frame and then pull back out and it makes it look like one continuous shot, and it works really well in Kingsman. Whereas this one, they kind of tried to do it, but it didn't work, and it just fell flat on its face, and as I said, the cinematography didn't help at all. If you want to see a good example of a fight scene, go and watch the Kingsman church scene. If you want to see a bad example of a fight scene, go and watch any of the Brothers Grimsby spy scenes. The exposition for the film was rammed down your throat in the first 2 minutes, and it's not clever. You can tell it's being rammed down your throat. It sort of went like this. Dad, can we go in that room? No son, you can't, that's your uncle's room. Allow me to tell you about it, even though you probably do know, just for the benefit of the camera that's over there, because reasons. There were a couple of continuity errors, especially with the couple. One of Sacha Baron Cohen's daughters was kissing their boyfriend or something, and like the first shot of them kissing, you'd focus on them and they were still kissing, and then they cut, and the couple are broken apart, and not kissing, and then they go in for it again, and I'm like, but you were focused, how did no one notice that? The plot in the film was ridiculously handy and predictable. And I say handy because the plot just sort of like, they get on a motorcycle at one point and it's just been, there's no interesting way in which they get it, it's just sort of there and they go, oh, we'll get on that. It was predictable as well, I could predict where the plot was going to go. It just wasn't a good story to watch in the end, it just was predictable, it was boring, no, just didn't enjoy it. Rebel Wilson should just have someone that follows her around. You know, like they have sign language people in the corner of TV show doing sign language. There should be one for Rebel Wilson every time she's on the screen, but he should just be shouting, look, it's funny because she's fat and she doesn't give a shit. Yeah, you go, girl. Because that was the extent of most of her jokes. I've said before, but the accents were really poor. Coming from Grimsby and knowing the accent, we miss out the T's, so little turns into little, whereas Sacha Baron Cohen went more Yorkshire. It was kind of like this, and you're never alone in Grimsby. It's not good. The accent was completely wrong. No one got the accent on point apart from the little kid who's actually from the town. The child actors in this film were so bad. There's one kid, and I don't even remember his name, I'm not even gonna look it up, but he looked so hyper, and like he looked like he was trying to act, and it was just, all the child actors in this were so bad. They were bad. No child actors, none whatsoever, just none of them were good, and I'm glad they were only in there for about 10-20 minutes. About 95% of the jokes were toilet humour, and like, I can laugh at toilet humour, but there's a line with it, and they just crossed it so many times, and if you cross that line, it doesn't become funny, it becomes uncomfortable and disgusting. And I'm talking about one bit with elephants and the semen. It was not funny, if anything, it genuinely made me feel physically sick. Now after hearing all that, you may be thinking, oh, because it's set in your hometown, you're a little offended and you might be taking it to shit because you're offended. I went in with an open mind, I didn't overly enjoy The Dictator, I didn't overly enjoy Borat, but they were funny in places and I was expecting something like that. I had to think about it afterwards, and I thought, if it wasn't called Grimsby, I probably wouldn't have gone and seen it, because I'm not overly a fan of Sacha Baron Cohen. If I had seen it after it came out, would I have enjoyed it? And the answer is no. I probably would have turned it off, to be honest. It wasn't clever, it was just disgusting toilet humour. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't recommend going and seeing it. Don't waste your money on it. Just watch something better. Go and watch Deadpool, because Deadpool was an amazing film.
Now I'm sick of their shit and I'm sick of their business. Pissed off at the fact that they're trying to kiss this princess.